Good afternoon. Welcome to EL Plus with me, Fiona Zhang.
And me, Mansoor Ahmad, in this week's program.
Where's the iPhone?
Groundbreaking research on babies by Goldsmith psychologists.
The big goal of infancy research is to understand babies' ordinary lives, sort of how they learn about the world.
Is the Croydon cat killer still at large?
If you had foxes taking the heads off cats or rabbits, and they've been killed in road traffic accidents, they would not get exactly the same spot in every single animal.
A special event for vintage lovers at Borough in Deptford.
Researchers at Goldsmith College are appealing for Lucian parents with young babies to take part in their latest psychological research. They want to find out how babies see the world. Jemima child has been to look at the project.
Just measure a head.
It's child's play for these researchers who are testing their new experiment on babies.
The infant lab at Goldsmiths University measures children's cognitive development. They focus on how children see the world around them and how different sensory inputs can control their actions.
They're going to be looking at a cartoon on a screen, and then every now and again there will be a ball moving towards them, so they're followed by a touch on their hands, or a ball going away, followed by a touch again. And we're just going to measure her brain activity while she's looking and just see what babies this age think about.
Babies who are 4, 8 and 10 months old are being tested.
At the moment in this lab, we look at how babies learn about their physical world, how they learn to coordinate their limbs and their vision to sort of give them a full, immersive experience of the world.
It's also an enjoyable experience for the babies.
This hat measures event-related potential in the baby's brain. It has soft sensors in the sponges and is placed on the baby's head so that it can measure all electrical activity.
The main goal of infancy research is to understand babies' ordinary lives. Bubbles are used as a distraction again, to encourage babies to use their hands. As the babies are connected to the equipment, they sit on their parents' lap for the whole experience. The hat, which tracks and records brainwave patterns, is attached to a computer and the results recorded. The data shows what the baby can see and what they can feel. All of the experiments are short and simple games that a baby can interact with. It's safe for the baby and has been approved by the university's research committee.
I definitely encourage other mums to do it. I think it's a very good programme. It's interesting for the babies, and it's also good for me to see what goes on in places such as this.
You show it to your sister.
After their hard work, the baby is awarded a certificate and t-shirt. The lab encourages more local parents to volunteer. Jemima Childs, East London Lines.
Is the Croydon cat killer still at large? Police closed down the investigation into the pet killings last September, but a group of dedicated pet owners in South London believe the real suspect is still at large and still killing animals. Clarke has more.
According to the RSPCA, a quarter of households in the UK are cat owners. And while many of us would not think twice about letting our pets out at night, a group of owners in South London would not agree. The reason is because they believe the Croydon cat killer is still on the loose and has caused more than 500 animal deaths so far. But since police investigations closed last September, they are still receiving reports of mysterious cat deaths. The Metropolitan Police has ruled out human involvement in the case. The official statement says that reported cat mutilations in Croydon and elsewhere are likely to be the result of predation or scavenging by wildlife on cats killed in vehicle collisions. But the animal welfare group South Norfolk Animal Rescue and Liberty, or SNAL, believe lack of funds pushed the police into ending the inquiry too soon. SNAL say they are called up to 5 times a week with reports of new killings.
I think the worst cases are ones where it's very difficult to identify a cat or where the owner finds their own cat. I think those are the ones that are the most distressing. We have evidence of human involvement in returns. We've got body part returns up to 6 months later. Those body parts are pristine. If you had foxes taking the heads off cats or rabbits, they've been killed in road traffic accidents, they would not get exactly the same spot in every single animal. It just wouldn't happen.
Cats are not the only targets, with rabbits and even foxes falling victim to their unexplained mutilations. The killer is said to have a specific method, which often involves cutting the head and tail off and placing body parts in owners' driveways. Whilst this may imply a human hand, it doesn't point towards who may be responsible. But some victims are still deeply affected by their loss.
My cat Monty was a little black. I think he was the runt of the pack. He was tiny. I had him since he was a kitten. He was kind of a family pet, but he liked me the most, and he spent every night on my bed. It made us feel really unsafe. We've now got CCTV everywhere because we felt watched because of the fact that the person knew that Monty and Herbie would be together as well. It felt like somebody had been watching the house for more than that day. I felt like evil had touched our house. It was like, I don't know, it sounds dramatic, but my dad came into the room and it was just like we'd been touched by something evil.
Police say if they find clear evidence of human involvement, they might reopen investigations. But until then, pet owners are being urged to be vigilant, keep pets indoors at night, and report cases of mutilations to the police. Scott Clarke, East London Lines.
There are 23,000 EU citizens living in Lewisham. If the UK leaves the EU, they will have to apply for a new immigration status. The government has said EU citizens don't need to do anything yet. Nevertheless, many are getting their paperwork ready. Our reporter, Irena, talked to local EU citizens about how they are preparing for Brexit.
Greg came to the UK 5 years ago. From Monday to Friday, he works as a purchase assistant in a big company. And on the weekends, he sells his Greek food. His family is in London as well.
My little Leliki, 2 years old now. My wife, Tita.
They made Lewisham their home and they want to stay here.
London is great, multicultural country, a lot of things to see, and always, you're never bored here, actually.
But what's in the future? What is their plan after Brexit?
We don't know what will happen. Actually, I'm a live example of experiencing Brexit 2 years ago, so I have bad memories, to be honest with you. And I don't want to see that happening here.
Greg is not the only one who is worried. There are 23,000 EU citizens in Lewisham who will have to apply for a new status. The 3 Million organization is doing their best to help them to get through this process and secure their existing rights.
It's supposed to be an easy 3-step process that you can that you can work out in 10 minutes online. Amber Rudd, the then Home Secretary, said, "Oh, it will be like applying for an account at LK Bennett." Well, it turns out, that you have to dig out your papers from 5 years ago and send them to the Home Office, and it's not as easy as all that.
When the UK leaves the European Union, all the EU citizens and their families will have to apply for a new immigration status. It can be either a residence document, a settled status, or citizenship. To find out more, we went to speak to a local councillor. Lewisham councillors hold advice surgeries where residents can come if they're worried about something and need help.
They want 2 things from us. One is they want advice for their own personal circumstances, but they also want to know what we as a council are doing about Brexit generally. What are we doing to campaign to the government to protect EU citizens' rights, but also, if possible, to mitigate the effects of Brexit, perhaps stop Brexit. And we as a council, we oppose Brexit.
But people like Greg didn't have a say in Brexit. Greg didn't vote. He's one of more than 3 million EU citizens in the UK who is now facing acute uncertainty. Like most of the other EU workers in the UK, all he can do now is wait and see. Irena, East London Lines.
And now for a roundup of the local news, we go over to Jemima in newsroom.
Good afternoon. On East London Lines this week, we have a couple of articles celebrating LGBT History Month. We also have a heartwarming story by Eliza Ketcher about a Hackney man who has raised over £150,000 for a knife crime charity. Still to come, Our editor, Beck Ryman, is working on a story that calculates which borough is best for you to live in. In other news, Goldsmiths Friends of the Earth Society have launched a campaign to eliminate single-use coffee cups from the university campus. In the UK alone, we use 7 million of these every day. That's 2.5 billion a year, which will end up in the ocean or landfill. Goldsmiths Cafe are offering a 20p discount to anybody who can bring one of these, a reusable coffee cup. Back to you in the studio.
Stay with us on EL Plus News.
Yes, we'll bring you more stories after the break. LGBTQ+ month is in full swing at Goldsmith College. Students and members of public were invited to attend a day of workshops and screening dedicated to queer history. Esther Mackenzie reports.
A century of British queer history told through landmark moments in gay cinema and television. Daisy Asquith's award-winning documentary, Queerama, highlights and explores sexual liberation, punitive laws, and societal change in the LGBTQ+ community.
I made this film Queerama in 2017 to take advantage of the commemorations of the 50th year anniversary of the partial decriminalisation of homosexuality. It's got 100 films cut into it from the BFI archive.
Seasoned filmmaker Daisy Asquith hosted workshops which provided a day of activism and queer storytelling.
LGBTQ+ month, like History Month, has always been really important to me. I've done a lot of activism in the month. It's a really good focal point for people to come together.
The theme of this year's LGBTQ+ month is peace, activism and reconciliation. Historian Lucy Robinson talks of the importance of representation.
I think that Black and ethnic minority experience, disabled experience, trans experience, those are all marginalised, even within the space of queer history, I think.
A 2018 survey of 5,000 people conducted by the LGBTQ charity Stonewall found that over half their respondents suffered with depression. The survey also found that 1 in 8 18 to 24-year-olds also considered taking their own lives. This figure was higher amongst transgender people. Though there's little doubt much has improved for the LGBTQ+ community over the past few decades, it appears that there is still a long road ahead to reach full equality for the entire queer community. Astra Mackenzie, East London Lions.
England's Chief Medical Officer is urging parents to ban mobile phones at dinner table and before bedtime. Dame Sally Davis also said that the children should take a break before the screens every 2 hours. Her warning comes amid growing concern over child safety online. Asa Hussain is in Deptford, where he's been finding out what the public thinks.
Hello, yeah, we went down to Deptford to see what the people actually think about what Sally Davis said. And I quote her saying that we need to take a precautionary approach to time spent online. So here's what the people actually of Deptford thought about what she said.
I mean, I think it's a parent's job most of all. We're always going to have issues with our technology that we don't really know how to use. So, I mean, if you just leave around the kid to just sit around in front of the TV, it's the same thing, really. It's up to the parents to show them that there's other stuff to do in life.
I feel like there's not enough censorship as well, and especially sort of not necessarily nudes and things like that, just violence I feel like isn't censored enough.
There's a lot of children, now when they're not using their computer or their phone, they don't know how to interact with other people at all. The social skill is no longer there.
So the general feeling, here in Deptford is that people think that there must be more protection and also censorship about children being online, but also they summed up that it comes down to the parents and how they protect the children. Back to you, Yao.
Thank you, Asa. Goldsmiths College students have held a second-hand clothes sale in a pub in Deptford to raise money for charity. The Silver Records DJ Student Society and the non-profit organization My Big Sisters joined forces to stage the event. Irena Rastegaeva reports.
My big sister's wardrobe, founded by 3 friends who have used their love of vintage and second-hand clothing to start up a small business. Kia, Christy and Izzy organized a night of vinyl mixing at the bar Stockton in Deptford.
To start with, it was basically me and my sister. We just had a lot of clothes around and we were trying to work out what to do with them, and we kind of came across this charity which we're working in our hometown Coventry.
And it basically trains refuge women and gives them the skills they need to get jobs.
Many of the clothes feature shorts, jackets, trousers and even many accessories. My big sister's wardrobe exclusive merchandise can be purchased on their Depop app store.
Wish I suited a lot of things. There was a lot of things that I wanted to get, but I just ended up going for this little scarf thing.
Visitors were even allowed to try on the clothing so that they can feel groovy.
The main aim was basically to get people together who collect vinyl. We wanted a nice space for society members to come, just have fun, listen to music.
We make sure it's non-profit just because at the end of the day, we don't want to profit. We're not allowed to profit from anything as a society anyway, but we didn't want to create a space where people were excluded from it just because they couldn't afford it.
All the profits they make are invested into their charity partners so that people can get beloved, affordable gems and give back to charity at the same time. Irena, Rastegaeva, East London Lines.
And now for the sports news, who are joined by Clarke.
It's Six Nations season and the English rugby team play France this weekend. Cornwall-born Elliot Daly has played 26 international games and is once again in the running to play against France. Cornwall boxer Charlie Edwards will be defending his world flyweight title against the Spanish fighter Angel Moreno. This will be at the Copper Box Arena in London on March 23rd. The 25-year-old champion has already spoken about the fight and will seek an important win over Moreno, who has suffered just 2 defeats in 23 fights. The Croydon fight heavyweight boxer Joshua Buatsi will fight Liam Conroy for the British title. This will be the 10th professional fight of his career. That's all for sport.
Thank you, Sport.
That's it for now. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next week.